welcome to the last edition of the show, Frontier Opening Bell. Today, this is the last edition of the show for this week. I'm Temple Ashaju, Bosun Amofaya, Executive Editor, here to do justice to some of the headlines. But before we do that, we will look at the market. We'll do a deep dive into these numbers now, where the Nigerian Stock Exchange closed again down 0.49% on Thursday. BRVM Stock Exchange was positive 52 basis points. The Egyptian Stock Exchange plummeted by 1.23%, while we have the Nairobi Stock Exchange heading the same direction, plunging 2.17%, perhaps on some sort of a profit taking there, because we know that Safaricom has much of a catalyst to recent trading sessions. The Johannesburg Stock Exchange finished positively, jumping by 1.26%. Let's look at the East African headlines. Kenya Commercial Bank Group shook off virus with 1.8% profit after tax at 6.4 billion Kenyan shillings. Family Bank, the profit after tax was positive. That was a surge of 71%. You've got earnings per share rising by some 47 cents. Total interest income is positive as well by 21%. Where they're getting this money from, Bosun will possibly be able to do justice to that for us. Equity Group to start 30% to 50% dividend distribution policy. You have GT Bank Kenya loans up by 7%, profit before tax 45% up, profit after tax 49% positive, deposits also positive by 18%. Ethiopia's Inyala Insurance SC buys 26.7 million bear bond for GERD projects, and you have Macron meeting Kagame in Kigali today to rebuild relations. Bosun would bring these headlines for understanding.
You know, there's a whole lot here to chew. The Kenyan bank earnings are coming fast and furious. You're asking me how they're getting the money. I have no idea. But let me just tell you something for free. Whatever happens, unless you have a big situation, which banks are always in money. Whether every one of us get broke or whatever happens, banks seem to be like cats with 9 lives, in the proverbial way of speaking, you know, that they have a way of surviving quite a whole lot of situations. And somehow, but I think to a very large extent, when you start looking at the first quarter numbers of banks in Nigeria, for example, as well, you find out that, let's give it to the central bankers, by the way, in a manner of speaking, I think they've, to a very large extent, been able to support the banks and prevent the collapse of the banking system with the COVID-19. And I think a whole lot of the central bankers have learned, and some of the banks have learned their lessons from the global financial crisis of 2008, 2009. So moving forward, stepping forward to 2020, 2021, I think to a large extent, they've been able to come around to understand the demography, the environment, and what have you. So I give this to policy responses by central banks across Africa in every jurisdiction. So while last year was very brutal as the first year in which things were beginning to look a little bit optimistic. Look at Kenya, for example, which we're talking about in terms of the agriculture sector. Remember, remittances also start coming in very good. Kenya tea auction has been very steady. They were doing a lot in horticulture, okay? So the banks are there, part of this massive horticulture tea exports that Kenya did last year and into part of this year into Europe and elsewhere in the Middle East and elsewhere. So you have the banks involved with the transactions and what have you. When you see another tea company proposing a few days ago or this week talking about listing on the Nairobi bourse as well, where you have the types of Limuru tea and the rest of them. Look at Kakuzi as well, avocado and what have you. Look, the banks are involved. And then the increase in remittances, we're talking about $300 million US in the month of March or April in Kenya, the latest number we got about a week ago. So the banks are all trying to make ends meet. And I think they've handled this very well. They did a whole lot of write-downs last year. But when you begin to look at the provisioning they made last year and how some of this money are coming back very gently, I think I'll give it to the banks that they're doing a whole lot of prudential management processes that have been put in place by the central bank and the banks, and I think I say kudos to them. There's a whole lot. Look at Family Bank, for example, an unlisted bank, 71%. Again, with the pandemic, what folks did was to decrease a little bit of spending last year, okay, and try to stay alive. You understand? You know, the survival is the first instinct of man. That's not the time anybody's throwing parties around or going on excessive spending, as it were. You make sure you have your 3 square meals, you keep your family safe, and what have you. Now that seemed to have gone off in the first quarter, folks were coming out. Look at retail sales numbers in South Africa, in the US, in the UK. The retail sales are coming back. Folks are going to the stores, they buy new TV and a whole lot of other things, at least in those economies where they get a whole lot of government support in terms of the paycheck. In Africa, we're also coming through, and a whole lot of savings were done by folks last year, because no one knows tomorrow, as the saying goes in this part of the world. So as no one knows tomorrow, folks will not just go on the spending beach last year. I think that's beginning to come back very quietly and strongly in the new year. I think that's where the numbers are coming through for all the banks. Very important story about Emmanuel Macron, the French president in Kigali. It's long in coming. The French president is a good diplomat. Let me put it that way. He just finished the France-Africa summit, financing summit last week or so, trying to rally around Africa. Then now he's coming down to Rwanda, which is now becoming, quote unquote, the Singapore of Africa, in the manner of speaking. Talk to President Kagame, His Excellency, trying to mend fences over the genocide. This morning is also in the news that the Germans are also reaching out to Namibians to write off about $2 billion, whatever, in debt and what have you. Look, Africa is where everybody is coming to right now. The question is, do we know what we want from these former colonial masters and whoever, whether they're Chinese or whatever? And are we going to get a good bargain? Do we have our heads on our shoulders, good thinking, to make sure that we're well positioned for this reaching out that these authorities in the Western Hemisphere and the Asians, by the way, are making overtures, as it were, to Africa?
Thank you very much, Bosun. Let's move on to the Western African and Nigerian markets headlines, where the World Bank has okayed a near $700 million water, sewage, and other projects for Nigeria. The Securities and Exchange Commission of Nigeria sets effective dates for crowdfunding rules. NNPC plans to acquire 20% stake in Dangote Refinery. And you have the Ghana Stock Exchange wanting a deeper investment culture, as the Securities and Exchange Commission there floats new 10-year roadmap. NSIA Bank first quarter profit after tax up 32% to some 3.32 billion CFA franc. Bosun, can we really say that the 20% stake NNPC is now owning in Dangote Refinery was expected?
Well, over the last year, 2 or 3, you've seen the former Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Sibe Kachiku, warming up very cozily with the Dangote. I think while he was in office, he visited that site, downtown Lagos, a couple of times that I could remember as a journalist covering all that story on our news channels here locally. And then the various government officials at the various top levels. So they've been kind of woozing around the Dangote Refinery. They've talked very highly about how it will help Nigeria resolve its sustainability in terms of petrol products and what have you. So I'm sure over time, this discussion must have been going on the ground. Dangote would have to come up and make a formal announcement in the manner of speaking. It's not a listed refinery, by the way. So it doesn't have it doesn't have to report to the market. But I think in the matter of public interest, Dangote Refinery or Dangote Industries, which is the umbrella body for the entire Dangote companies, industries in Nigeria, should make a formal statement on this overture by the NNPC. And if it's a done deal, they should just let us know. What that means moving forward, I think the devil is always in the details, as they say. So let's see what that would mean. Why would the NNPC want the 20% in the Dangote Refinery? Is it going to be crude for refined products? Will it be the pipeline? Or yes, the pipeline part of it. What part of it is the NNPC interested in? How much will that be in terms of putting cash on the table? I think the National Assembly or the legislature should move immediately into this. The relevant committees at the upper and lower legislative house should ask questions. It should call the board of the NNPC to appear, or the GMD of the NNPC must appear immediately before because this is a state-owned, state oil corporation. If you're making a bid for a private company of this nature, you need to go for a public hearing, a matter of speaking. You need to brief Legislative House. So I expect that to happen with immediate effect. If the NNPC is not doing it on its own, the oversight committees at the National Assembly or the Parliament should call the NNPC immediately, and the Minister of Petroleum Resources, by the way, a Minister of State, because the President is the, so you can't bring the President into the chambers. So you get the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources. He should be in the know, as well as the NNPC Group Managing Director and the rest of his team, to explain what this deal is all about. What is it in taxpayers' money? How will it go? How much is on the table? And the all details that they're working on. And of course, Dangote himself sitting at the other side of the table as well.
Well, you have other stories. It looks like the Securities and Exchange Commission in Africa is really gearing up for more investments too.
Yes, I think, and I love what is going on with the crowdfunding issue. You know, folks are interested in crowdfunding. A few unpleasant stories, news over the last couple of months about those who invested in crowdfunding, so whether they disappeared or whatever. It's good for the SEC to set the rules. It's good to set the deadline. It's good to set a firm affirmation as to what to be expected within that industry. I love the $700 million deal projects for water, sewage, sanitation. This is all part of sustainability issue that the World Bank is helping us to resolve. Maybe this is a better way for the World Bank to deal with Nigeria, rather than giving us a $2 billion, $3 billion budgetary support, which goes cash into the central bank. It is drawdown. You can't really tell where the money goes into our consumption pattern, the usual thing. So if you're going to have about 2,500 schools in Nigeria benefit from this funding, I love that. 6 million more people will have access to potable water. That will improve overall health, by the way. If you know, water is life in itself. So that will be good. Sanitation, reduce our open defecation and what have you. Look, there's a whole problem out there if you look at the social media, even in places like this country's capital, Abuja, with open defecation becoming a serious problem. Don't talk about Lagos or any other places. So I think I love this. It's going to be project tied. It's not going to, there's a project designed with the World Bank in Nigeria, presented to the executive board of the World Bank in Washington, and it's given okay. So the funding will be released as per projects, rather than give you a lump sum for budgetary support that goes into the country's account, and you can neither find the money nor what you use it for. So I think I love this. Maybe we begin to have this approach to resolving our social problems, social development problems in the country, through which the World Bank is giving us funds for project specifics, and we can see the deliverables or the implementation. Then we can say we're making progress, rather than money all of these years, all these decades that keep going to nowhere, and today we're worse off for it.
Thank you very much, Bosen. South African market headlines, where this South African Reserve Bank releases first financial stability review of 2021. South Africa's to scrap e-toll roads in main commercial hub of Gauteng. You have transaction capital raising stake in We Buy Cars to 74.9% from 49.9%. Zimbabwe Stock Exchange listed Caledonia increases gold's reserves by 1% to 528 ounces. You have Bank ABC Shelter Africa in $11 million deal for 2,500 housing units. Tharisa plans platinum metal smelter in South Africa, new Zimbabwe mines. Well, we know that with the Bitcoins and all the cryptocurrencies these days, the batteries for the electric cars, the demand for metal is really on the high side. Walk us through what this will mean for all of these South African markets, Bosen.
Yep. Yes, well, I'm sure Temple will talk about the EV and what have you. If you get all that put up in Zimbabwe, Lexo Energy 2 days or 3 days ago talked about setting up a whole network of EV charging points in Kenya, by the way. Look, these are the kind of progress we should be talking about, not setting up of more petrol stations as we have in Nigeria for retailing. We're not yet driving into the future, by the way. I'm sorry, with due respect, I'm a Nigerian, but it doesn't look like we're driving into the future. I'm yet to see one single energy provider in Nigeria saying, look, we're going into electric vehicle charging points. Okay, look, and in terms of spending, in terms of GDP, Nigeria is far bigger than Kenya. But look at that Lexo Energy. They're thinking about the future. They're looking into it. And none of the energy trading companies on Nigerian Stock Exchange or Nigerian Exchange Limited is talking about that. Temple, and that gets me worried. You have Owando, which is an integrated one. You have Forte Oil, now Adova. You have quite a big other names that are indigenous that should be able to give us some forward thinking around electric vehicles, what the future holds for things of that nature. But let's just talk about the SARB. The report came out late yesterday. It's quite voluminous. I haven't read through it in details, but I think the US Fed or the FDIC, which is the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation in the United States, released a similar report a few days ago, which I got, and it just tells you about the stability, the state of stability of the banks and the entire financial system in every country. So we expect the Nigerian Central Bank should also release a similar document. Releasing this in South Africa is also very good. The Gauteng story is very interesting because it's taken a couple of years, I think about since 2012, that they've been trying to resolve this issue. Because when you go downtown, which is like your lower Manhattan in New York, and you're talking about the business, central business district, the main commercial hub, then you have this e-tolling. You understand the point, Tempo, in which there's so much you just drive around. During the business hour, Tempo, you want to drive from Marina, for example, in Lagos, right?
Yeah. Come
down to Ikoyi, then you go to Victoria Island, then you come all the way back to Marina, then you go to Broad Street and what have you. And you can start getting e-tolled all around. Look, it doesn't make for ease of doing business, by the way. I got business meetings, 3, 4, 5. Hold on a second. Folks need to move around, by the way. So why do you keep so much e-toll, the roads all around the Gauteng commercial hub? So I think removing this, I think the government must have thought, well, we're going to grab a few amount of money. But again, it is to deter people coming in there. Again, if you have foreign investors who've got a couple of scheduled meetings and what have you, then they keep tolling all the way around a distance of 2 kilometers, 3 kilometers, half a kilometer, 3 kilometers or less, then they get tolled all over again. I don't think it makes good business. Government can do a lot more, find a very creative way of making money within the central business district rather than e-tolling every corner, every bus stop, every street corner, down the street, whatever. And I think it's a good news, and it's good. When I saw that news yesterday, we decided to put it on as well. It will ease business a whole lot within the Gauteng area in Joburg,
especially for commuters. Thank you very much, Bosun. On Northern African market, where we have the Afreximbank first quarter earnings coming out. Afreximbank first quarter profit after tax was up by 4% to $87.3 million on the 23% net interest income that was recorded for that period as well. GSK Egypt okays annual cash dividend of 50 pence per share for 2020 financial year. You have TMG's consolidated net profit up some 447.080 million Egyptian pounds in the first quarter of this year. Egypt's agri-tech Mozari 3 raises 7-figure pre-seed funding round, and you have Moroccan CDCI eyeing West African expansion by 2025. Bosun, help us to finish these headlines for the show this morning.
Yeah, the Afrexim story is the one I'll really speak to very quickly, because when I saw the numbers yesterday, that looks really good for the first quarter unaudited financial statement. Look, Tempo, you can call this a broken record, but I just love the way the Afreximbank and the AFDB are beginning to give a very good showing of themselves. It's been, as a financial journalist, it's been a dream come true, that you can get the reports of all these agencies, the Afrexim, the Nexim Bank, the Exim, the Africa Risk Capacity, which is specialized in insurance agencies set up by the African Union and the rest of them, that they're reporting back to the people of Africans. And those of us who are in the media, mainstream or whatever, should do very well to keep reporting this on the front pages, keep them up on our online, to begin to see, let Africans themselves, home and in diaspora, see all the efforts that these institutions are making. We spent so many years supporting the World Bank, the IMF, the NIGA, the IFC, the IDA, the ODA, the rest of them. And again, we celebrate these numbers as soon as we get them. But we do a whole lot less when it comes to our own agencies and their subsidiaries, such as the AFDB, the Making Finance Work for Africa, the Afreximbank, and all the other agencies they set up. So this is good news. In the first quarter of the year, reporting these numbers looks like a very good year getting started by Afreximbank. So that's what I'm going to say this morning.
Thank you very much, Bosin. And of course, you know, everyone is now looking forward to the intra-African trade fair in December in Egypt. Hopefully, the whole pandemic would have cleared up enough for people to be able to attend in person. Thanks a great deal, Bosin Amofaye, our executive editor here at Frontier Africa Reports, for doing justice to all of these headlines on Frontier Opening Bell this morning. I'm Temple Ashaji. This has been the show for today. I'll see you next time. To have yourself a restful weekend. Bye for now.